Hello everybody, this is Ryan from the YMCA. Today we're going to be talking about the hip hinge, or what a lot of people refer to as the deadlift. In this video, this is going to be an active, older, adult-friendly, senior-friendly, safe and effective way to learn the movement pattern. So let's start with what the movement is. So a hip hinge is really how we most correctly or most safely pick objects up off the ground. So we're maintaining the curve in our lumbar spine. So if you notice here, I got this PVC pipe in contact with my head, between my shoulders and my rear end. And when I go ahead and I hinge, I'm hinging at the hips. So I'm bending over and I'm picking up. In this position, it's my hips that are the primary movers. So it's really the hips and the hamstrings loading up the weight. My spine or low back is really not taking the load. It's there for stability. So the movement pattern is coming from the hip. So now that we know what the hip hinge is, I want to kind of briefly discuss why it's important. So one, anytime we're picking something up off the ground, we're using our balance. So a big thing I hear from a lot of seniors is they don't like to pick things up off the ground because they feel their balance is compromised. They feel that their weight, center of mass, shifts forward and they're afraid of losing balance. So if you're hinging properly, the weight's in your heels and you will not be falling forward. It's also really important to train all the musculature in our posterior chain. So this hip hinge will train all the muscles on the back side of your body. We deteriorate muscle at about 1% once we hit the age of 50. So every year we lose 1% of our muscle mass. When we turn 70, that takes off and it becomes a much greater reduction in muscle mass each year. So it's important to continue to train these movements. So we'll get right into a few drills that will help you perform this movement. So the first drill to get this hinge pattern correctly, because it does give people a lot of difficulty, they squat instead of hinge, is to take a foam roller, put it on your waistline, take your hands and push your hips back and just roll that down your legs. This is going to force you into a good hinge, and you'll see my lower back is neutral spine, so I'm not curving over. So I'm here, coming back up, push those hips back into this hinge position. So that's kind of the first place you want to start. Using a mirror, side on, is a good place to start. Once you have that, we'll talk about the next progression. Another great drill is called a rack pull. So I'm going to start with the PVC pipe, so there's really no loading to this whatsoever. I'm going to set the rack or the rig up with our J-cups so that I'm going to walk into this. My knees are now touching this PVC pipe, so I cannot squat forward because I'm going to bump into the PVC pipe. In order for me to grab my hands around that bar, I have to send my hips back. So it puts me in the right position. From here, I'm just going to stand and open my hips. So in this start position, my shoulders are in front of the bar. My hips are back, my back is flat, weight is in my heels. When I come up, I finish by squeezing my butt, which means my hip is fully open and my shoulders are behind the bar. Once you can perform this movement consistently, you could do a few things. You could lower these down and go lower and lower, giving more range of motion, or maybe we could start with the bar. So it will look exactly the same with the bar. Same thing, I walk up, my knees are against the bar. For me to reach down and grab the bar, I have to send my hips back and up. So whenever performing a deadlift or a hip hinge, points of performance are going to be weight in the heels, shoulders over the bar in the setup. When we come to a standing position, shoulders are behind the bar and our hips are fully open. And the last progression in movement for the hip hinge today is going to be using a landmine and a barbell and some bumper plates here to elevate or limit our range of motion. So we're going to start with a limited range of motion and a light load, and then what we can do over time is start removing these bumper plates and increasing our range of motion. So from here, same thing, we're keeping the object, or our hands in this case, really close to the center of mass. So what I mean by that is my hands are not out here, I'm starting here, and I'm going to pick up in this position, sending those hips back. So you're here, up, squeeze the butt, which opens the hips, come down, and up, and down. And then what you could do is you could begin to remove plates, which is going to increase the range of motion or increase the amount that our hip is hinging. So if you're not already training the hip hinge, I hope that this video will inspire you to do so. I hope that some of these drills work for you, and we hope to see you at the YMCA. Thank you.